I need it! I need it! Let's go! Go!
Welcome to TYT. I'm your host, Anna Kasparian. Cenk will be joining us soon. But right before I went on air, a story broke regarding the House narrowly passing a government funding bill to the tune of $1.2 trillion. That's not really the big story here. The big story is the fact that the bill allocates nearly $65 billion to DHS, even as we're seeing what's happening on our streets right now, especially at the hands of ICE. And of that $65 billion, $10 billion is specifically allocated for ICE. And if you're not already incredibly irritated by that news, get a load of this. 7 Democrats joined Republicans in passing that bill. So later in the show, I'll tell you who they are. But before we get to immigration related news and ICE's abuses or latest abuses, I wanted to give you the latest update on the so-called blueprint or plan to rebuild Gaza, because that's what Jared Kushner was speaking about today at the World Economic Forum.
So we did a master plan. We brought in, I think, Yakir Gabay, who's one of the most successful real estate developers and brilliant people I know. He's volunteered to do this, not for profit, really because of his heart. He wants to do this. And we've developed ways to redevelop Gaza. Gaza, as President Trump's been saying, has amazing potential.
You know, this is a great location. It all begins, see, I'm a real estate person at heart, and it's all about location. And I said, look at this location on the sea. Look at this beautiful piece of property, what it could be for so many people.
These people make me sick. And if they don't make you sick, I don't know what's wrong with you. There's literally something wrong with you. But there's Jared Kushner and the president, Donald Trump, salivating over blood-soaked land where Israel carried out a genocide in Gaza, of course. And so despite never being elected for anything, and despite the fact that he's not an official member of the Trump White House, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, presented the White House's grand plan for rebuilding Gaza from scratch. Now, let's just pause and acknowledge, in order to build Gaza from scratch, that would mean that there's nothing left there to repair, right? It's been leveled. So the area, the region where a genocide definitely didn't happen at the hands of the Israelis has been totally leveled, totally leveled. So they got to rebuild it from scratch. Okay, so it's going to include data centers. Interesting, okay, coastal tourism and a lot of private sector investment. So Trump has made it abundantly clear that he views this whole undertaking as another one of his real estate projects. And before we get to those details, I just want you to pay very close attention to the fact that we're talking about an enclave, Gaza, where over 2 million Palestinians were living. At the current moment, I don't know how many Palestinians remain alive because Israel has yet to allow journalists into the Gaza Strip. And on Wednesday of this week, Israel decided to slaughter 3 additional Palestinian journalists out of the Gaza Strip. So while they want us to believe that the death toll is actually lower than the 70 to 80,000 that have been officially reported as dead, the reality is the death toll is probably much, much higher. Now, let's get to some of the details here. The plan Kushner laid out would cost $25 billion, and the whole point is to create a so-called economic hub by the year 2035. So here he is laying out his vision.
In the beginning, we were toying with the idea of saying, let's build a free zone, and then we have a Hamas zone. And then we said, you know what, let's just plan for catastrophic success. Hamas signed a deal to demilitarize. That is what we are going to enforce. Rafah will start with. This will show a lot of workforce housing. We think this could be done in 2-3 years. We've already started removing the rubble and doing some of the demolition. And then New Gaza. It could be a hope. It could be a destination, have a lot of industry, and really be a place that the people there can thrive, have great employment. Once this starts going, we think there should be 100% full employment and opportunity for everybody there. And we have a lot of data on what can be, but we think that this really gives the Gazan people an opportunity to live their aspirations. But it all starts with security, and it all starts with governance.
If you can remember, he had initially, this is a few months back, he had initially said, oh, we're only gonna redevelop Gaza in the area that's currently occupied by the Israelis, right? So the yellow line, which is over 50% of the Gaza Strip, which is occupied by the Israelis. We're only gonna focus on rebuilding that, but since Hamas hasn't demilitarized yet, we're not gonna rebuild the part that isn't occupied by the Israelis. Now that whole idea he threw out the window, and his whole idea now is, no, we're gonna rebuild the entire Gaza Strip. Now, is it for the Palestinians? No, this isn't about the Palestinians. And as you learn more and more about the details, you'll get what I mean, okay? So as you saw there in the video we just showed you, Kushner tried pretty hard to make this endeavor kind of sound like, he's doing a favor for the Palestinians. The White House claims that the plan will raise Gaza's GDP to more than $10 billion, increase average annual household income to over $13,000, and allocate $1.5 billion for vocational training programs. However, they did not address key issues such as property rights or compensation for Palestinians who lost their homes, businesses, and livelihoods during what Reuters refers to as a war, what I refer to, and what many genocide scholars refer to as a genocide. And that includes B'Tselem, by the way, an Israeli organization. Nor did they address where displaced Palestinians might live during the rebuilding. Well, they're going to be ethnically cleansed from the Gaza Strip, or maybe placed in a concentration camp and forgotten about. That's the plan. Like, let's not play games here. Let's just call a spade a spade. I'm not gonna do this cutesy thing that media outlets are doing where they're pretending as though they don't know what's gonna happen with the Palestinians. And it's obvious that this is also being treated as a massive investment opportunity for the private sector. So why don't we take a look? So you can see in the White House's master plan slide that the whole purple region along the coast is designated for coastal tourism and includes 180 mixed use towers, which I'm pretty sure exist in hell. Now, they also designated an area specifically for industrial complexes and data centers. That's shaded in brown. So doing a big solid favor for the tech bros, right? Who are very concerned about where they're gonna place AI data centers. Hey, why don't we take advantage of this blood-soaked land? So that's gonna happen. It's still unclear exactly who is gonna provide the billions of dollars that the Trump administration's extensive plans would require, obviously. But at the end of his speech, Jared Kushner, interestingly enough, made a point to solicit for private investment. Let's take a look at that.
A lot of you have been asking how can we help? So the countries have all been incredibly generous. We'll be doing the first conference where we'll announce a lot of the contributions that will be made in a couple weeks in Washington. From the private sector, there'll be amazing investment opportunities. I know it's a little risky to be investing in a place like this, but we need you to come, take faith, invest in the people, try to be a part of it.
Now, while the White House appears to be gung-ho about this project, they are still demanding full disarmament of Hamas before moving forward, which, as we all know, the group has not agreed to. Besides which, the 20-point peace deal that Trump likes to tout isn't really specific about what demilitarizing Hamas looks like. What does that even mean? How do you determine when Hamas has been effectively demilitarized? The Israelis don't really detail that either because the details don't matter. It isn't really about demilitarizing anyone. It's just about snatching that land after killing and displacing enough people, Palestinians in particular. And here was Trump's threat to Hamas during the signing of the Board of Peace Charter.
We have 59 countries that are involved in peace in the Middle East, and many have said that if Hamas doesn't do what they promised they would do, and I think they probably will, but they were born with rifles in their hands. They were literally born. The first day they had a rifle put into their hands, but they have to give up their weapons, and if they don't do that, it's going to be the end of them.
Israel has killed and slaughtered far more Palestinians than Palestinians have slaughtered of innocent Israelis. Let's just call that reality out. So if you're gonna say that Palestinians are born with guns and firearms and weapons in their hands, what does that say of the Israelis, considering they're responsible for a lot more slaughter of innocents, especially children, And by the way, I wouldn't really trust Donald Trump of all people as the arbiter of morality. Okay, he's probably at the top of the list when it comes to scum of the earth, violent goons and absolute losers who feel the need to point their fingers at others and claim that they're violent. The guy who likes to refer to other people as unintelligent when he gives rambling speeches that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. And let me just give you one more detail about this master plan and the people involved with this plan. Because the White House enlisted the help of an Israeli real estate developer by the name of Yaker Gabe to make these plans for Gaza. And I'm sure this Israeli is very concerned about building a beautiful enclave where the Palestinian people will live good lives, right? Right, okay. Now he is worth $4 billion. He splits his time between Israel, Miami, London, and Cyprus, and has maintained close ties with Jared Kushner for more than a decade. In November of 2023, 1 month after October 7th, he joined other business people from Europe and Arab states to present a day after plan for Gaza to officials at the White House. But he claims, I'm not looking to benefit from this. There's nothing in it for me. He's just volunteering his time, and his energy. That's all this is about. He's just real concerned about the Palestinian people. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. So that's where we are with Kushner, again, an unelected, unofficial member of Trump's administration, essentially plotting what he plans to do with land that will be stolen from a people who have just been genocided by Israel and continue to deal with Israel's violence and greed. That's the story. We gotta take a break, we'll be right back.
All right, back on TYT. Sorry I was late today, guys. I had a business meeting. That sounds funny, but I do actually run the company. I'm gonna read these blind. Let's go to YouTube members first. Christopher's 4558 says, Anna's looking fine today. Well, that's what you get when you read them blind, but it's true.
It's good that you started off with a complimentary comment because I'm in a rage mood today, okay, because of the news. But anyway, continue.
Yes, well, I enjoyed that.
Which could be dangerous.
Yeah, I like dangerous. Simon Moody 8400 says, I guess Kushner, Bibi, and Trump would think building condos on the side of Auschwitz would be a great idea, not at all gross or horrific. Simon, unfortunately, that's a great point. Right now, they're planning to build on the graves of dead Palestinian children.
Yep.
And they're monsters. But to be fair, almost everyone in Washington is a monster. So as they see that plan, little grumblings and is Trump gonna make money out of this? No, that's not the main problem. That's a huge problem. But the main problem is Israel just stole 53% of the land and is planning to build luxury condos in Gaza.
All of it.
Okay, and so.
All of it, not just 53%, all of it. Be clear about that.
Yeah, I mean 53% they have unilateral control over, 100% control over. The others they're trying to acquire more and more of it, obviously. Plus they, occupy it to the point where they could kill anyone they like at any time, but you all know that. All right, Ali Patel wrote in, my cat Suki hates Bibi and Trump. Suki's onto something. Okay, so Suki's a keeper. Sage and Candle says 3 local sites report ICE are raiding Rockford, Illinois. They're raiding everywhere because they want trouble.
Everywhere that's blue, let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
So all the right wingers who are like rah, super in favor of ICE barging into people's homes without the appropriate warrants. Let's see how you would feel if that happened in your town. Seriously, let's see, you don't care about constitutional rights or what this country is supposed to stand for at all if you're co-signing onto this crap.
Thomas Daniel writes, and I'm watching Anna deliver the news and I cooked my steak wrong from being distracted. Now it's a mistake. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, Chrono Hop and Peter Schoen, who are American heroes for joining up by hitting the join button below. Michelle Moody, thank you for gifting 5 memberships on YouTube. You're also an American hero. And Thomas Daniel, that was a hell of a joke that we read during the social break. Nice job on that super chat.
Later on in the show, we're gonna talk about the private autopsy that was done on Renee Good. We're also gonna look at some of the New York Times analysis of all the videos that are available of the shooting itself, which definitively prove that the ICE officer never made contact with the vehicle, okay? So Barry Weiss running that disgusting CBS story alleging that he went to the hospital with an internal bleeding, she's a hack and she's a disgusting creep, okay? We'll get to that later. I'm in a mood. All right, let's get to this next story, which I actually love.
I've made clear my position, which is that I don't think that we should purchase Israel bonds. We don't purchase bonds for any other sovereign nation's debt. And the controller has also made his position clear, and I continue to stand by mine.
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is a winner. What do you think, Cenk? Your 2 cents?
Yeah, I don't think we would have bought German bonds back in the 1930s and 40s. No matter how much money they made, right? So there's that. And if you say, well, that is an unfair, no. They're in the middle of a genocide.
Yep.
They're in the middle of a genocide. So it is disgustingly immoral to do anything with the Israeli government, let alone have them make money on behalf of New Yorkers who just voted for Mamdani? No, absolutely not. And so there's the moral component, but there's also the financial component. Why do we constantly owe Israel?
Right.
Why is it that no other nation, Bulgaria, France, nothing, no pensions, but when it comes to Israel, no, we have to give them money. We have to give them money. We have to give them money. No, we don't. Here's what Americans owe Israel: 0, nothing at all. And if you're saying otherwise, you're not really an American. You're Israel first. All right, Anna.
So Zohran Mamdani might be the only American politician with any backbone when it comes to pushing back against Israel. And for that alone, he has my support, really, because every other politician has been incredibly cowardly, with a few exceptions in the House, like Thomas Massey, for instance, Marjorie Taylor Greene before she resigned. But nonetheless, despite pressure from his own comptroller, Mamdani intends to maintain the city's ban on purchases of Israel bonds. So Comptroller Mark Levine has already positioned himself as this aggressive watchdog on Mamdani's budget, along with his policies. And more importantly, he has an agenda that conflicts a little from Mamdani's. The comptroller is also laying the groundwork to fulfill his campaign promises to resume the pension fund's purchases of Israeli bonds. He said he remains committed to resuming the purchases of Israeli bonds to the pension fund's portfolio, something predecessor Brad Lander, who's also Jewish by the way, had allowed to lapse. Now, he actually allowed the purchase of Israeli bonds to lapse in January of 2023, which obviously was many months before the October 7th attacks. And the reason why is because he's like, look, we gotta be consistent. Like, the city doesn't buy other foreign bonds. Why are we buying Israeli bonds? Now, Israel bonds are debt securities issued by the Israeli government with a roughly, in my opinion, lackluster return of 5%. New York held the bonds between 1974 and 2023, when then Comptroller Brad Lander, who is also Jewish, ended the city's investment of $39,947,160 in them. Okay, so Comptroller Levine is not happy about that, and he argues that Israeli bonds had been part of the portfolio for decades. That's true. It's no longer true. So you should get over it. But when Landers did end the investment, Mayor Eric Adams protested it, but didn't have the power to stop it unilaterally. Lander said that he was following the city's policy of avoiding foreign sovereign debt, treating Israel the same as other countries rather than giving it special treatment in the pension portfolio, which is only fair, right? So that was his motivation for doing it. Now, Mamdani's motivation goes a little further than that for obvious reasons, but Mamdani, a supporter of the Boycott Israel movement, pledged during the primary that he would end economic ties with the Israeli government, and said he supported Lander's move as a political statement. By the way, Mamdani also revoked Eric Adams's executive order in the final days of his term, in which he barred city agencies from adopting policies that discriminate against the country of Israel. The independent Jewish publication known as The Forward also reported that Adams's order also directed the city's chief pension administrator and pension trustees appointed by the mayor not to support divestment from Israel bonds or other assets. And Mamdani also revoked a measure adopting criticism of Israel as the definition of anti-Semitism. He knows that's BS, everyone knows that's BS, so he dropped that from the city as a measure. And of course, Mamdani has been accused of being an anti-Semite for his unwillingness to take the hard-earned money of New Yorkers and invest it in the bonds of a genocidal regime. And so Scott Stringer, who was the former New York City comptroller, says, this is BDS, meaning the boycott divest movement. Great. This is anti-Semitic. No, it's not.
A loser, Israeli cuck.
Absolutely, this must never become normalized. I disagree. I think it should totally be normalized. Ross Barkan, by the way, who's also Jewish, writes in and says, or responded and says, I am not here to defend Mamdani. I am speaking as a Jew who finds your definition of anti-Semitism insufferable and stupid, and I happen to agree.
Thank you, Ross. God bless you, Ross. All right, let's talk about Brad Lander. Brother's running in District 10 in New York against Dan Goldman, who's totally Israel first. And Lander has been endorsed not just by Mamdani, and he was incredibly helpful to Mamdani's efforts. Even though they ran against each other, they supported each other all throughout, and Lander was terrific about that. But he's also gotten the backing of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. He is the progressive in the race, he's the populist in the race. Make sure you're supporting Brad Lander in New York 10 and try to vote against almost all the incumbents, but certainly Dan Goldman, who says we should serve Israel, etc. Okay, so now the nonsense excuses. This is anti-Semitic not to give all of your money to Israel. Wait. Is it anti-Finnish that we're not taking New York pension bonds and investing it into Finnish treasuries? Well, why do we have to do that? Do we have to give it to Portugal? Is it anti-Portuguese? So like none of it makes any sense when you take the word Israel out and you Mad Lib it and you put it in another country. And then they're like, what? Of course we should receive special treatment. Us not receiving special, and by the way, they say like, what do you mean us, brother? Okay, so if you're saying Israel should receive special treatment and that it's outrageous and hateful not to give them special treatment, different treatment, I think you misunderstand the English language. That is not discriminatory to not give someone special treatment. It's normal to not give them special treatment. Now, when you say, no, I demand it, New Yorkers, take your stupid pension, you better give it to Israel to invest in them. Why? And then when you ask the simplest, most obvious question in the world, why? Like, hey, if you showed me, oh my God, the Israeli bonds are at like 12% and they're perfectly safe, there's very little risk involved. And the Finland bonds are at 7% and Portugal's at 4% and Germany's at 9%. Hey, Israel's the highest with the lowest risk ratio. Okay, now we're having a rational discussion. What is the best for the people of New York? Where should we put their pension that is the safest but gets you the best return? But we're not having that conversation. What we're having is a bunch of Israel first guys who betray America and thinks New Yorkers in America doesn't matter. Your returns don't matter. The safety of your money doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that their beloved Israel gets special treatment.
Right.
And it is an outrageous thing to ask for. But our media everything is an illusion. So they flipped it upside down. They're like, if Israel doesn't get special treatment, you are all anti-Semites and you are the hateful one. No, honestly, you're all lunatics and I'm sick of it and I can't stand the gaslighting anymore.
Now, even if we're talking about Israel bonds offering a much higher return, as I mentioned earlier, Mamdani is motivated by something that goes beyond financial returns on investment. He sees a moral issue here. And I agree with the lack of morality involved in taking the money of New Yorkers and investing it into Israeli bonds. So let's talk about that a little bit. So after New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani decided that I'm going to continue the recent trend of avoiding investing New York City pension funds into Israeli bonds, he talks a little bit about the lack of morality in doing that, in actually sending the money or buying up Israeli bonds. And I think he's got a really good case here because, well, you got to take a look at what's been happening in Gaza recently. A lot of Americans are under the impression that Trump succeeded in getting Hamas and Israel to sign a ceasefire deal, except one side has not at all followed the ceasefire or respected it. In fact, there are now 2 Israeli organizations in recent days, by the way, who outlined some of Israel's crimes. One of those associations is the Association for Civil Rights in Israel. The second one is the human rights group known as B'Tselem. So the Association for Civil Rights in Israel engaged in a year-long battle for the release of reports from the Public Defender's Office of the Justice Ministry. They wanted to know, how are these Palestinian hostages, because they haven't been charged with anything, how are these hostages being treated in these prisons? We all saw the video of the IDF soldiers gang raping a Palestinian hostage in a prison. They didn't suffer any consequences for doing so because Israelis protested the notion of any type of punishment. But nonetheless, the Association for Civil Rights in Israel engaged in this year-long battle, and here's what they found from the documents that were finally eventually released. Palestinian security detainees held in Israeli prisons have suffered from severe and systematic violence from prison guards, deprivation of food, and medical neglect, while also having been subjected to unsanitary conditions that caused and exacerbated outbreaks of disease in the prisons. Currently, by the way, Israel holds 6,700 Palestinian detainees who have not been charged with a crime. Additionally, another 1,200 Palestinians from Gaza who were detained after October 7th are being held in Israeli prisons and detention facilities as unlawful combatants. They too have yet to be charged with a single crime. They're just hostages. Now, the inspectors described the conditions in one prison they visited as not fit to hold human beings, and said of another that their findings showed unnecessary and unjustified violence against prisoners carried out on a regular basis and on numerous occasions. So Oded Feller, who happens to be an attorney with this organization, ACRI, they're the ones who engaged in this year-long battle to get these documents. Well, this gentleman, Feller, worked on obtaining the public defender's reports, that these reports we received have confirmed the testimony of prisoners and the reports of human rights groups and international organizations about widespread abuses in Israel's prisons. They show that these sadistic outrages are indeed taking place in Israeli prisons. This is not some American leftist saying this. This is an Israeli with an Israeli organization who fought for the release of these documents saying this. Several detainees said that they were subjected to violence every time they left their prison wing to go to the medical clinic, meet with a lawyer, or to go to the video conference room for legal proceedings. So every time they left their cell, they would be abused. Prisoners showed us their wrists with red welts, swelling, and scabs. The inspectors reported, adding that the beatings took place in areas of the prison where there is no CCTV coverage. And honestly, even if they did it with surveillance capturing every second of the abuse, there'd be no consequences for them, as we learned following the gang rape of a prisoner. So the human rights group B'Tselem also focused on the sexual abuse that takes place in these prisons. So this is now the second Israeli organization. They found that there's a grave pattern of sexual violence in detention facilities and prisons in a report released on Tuesday detailing abuse of Palestinians in Israeli jails. It ranges from threats of sexual assault through forced stripping to actual sexual assaults, the report found. These include beatings to the genitals that cause severe injuries, setting dogs on prisoners, and forced anal penetration with various objects. And there is one Palestinian prisoner by the name of Sami al-Saei who has been speaking out about the abuse that he suffered. He was raped while he was held as a hostage by the Israelis. The 47-year-old father of 6 was held without any charge or trial from February of 2024 to June of 2025. Over a year in Israeli detention, he's getting raped and abused, hasn't been charged with anything, nothing. He heard the Israeli prison guards who raped him laughing through the assault before they left him lying blindfolded, handcuffed, and in agony on the floor to take a cigarette break. He described sexual torture that lasted more than 20 minutes, including beatings on his buttocks, a guard applying extreme pressure to his genitals, and forced anal penetration with 2 different objects. And I've got more details that I wish I didn't have to get into, but I can if we need to.
So you see with human rights groups like B'Tselem that Israel does have its better angels, right? And so they're trying hard to get them back to, in my view, real Judaism, looking out for the underdog, challenging authority, etc. But they've got their work cut out for them, and I love that they exist, and I love that they're fighting for someone who isn't them, which is a very progressive thing to do. And I know some the folks that aren't progressive that go, no, your clan, your tribe, you have to love them and care, and then everyone else you hate and attack nonstop. But that's not the progressive mindset, and I love B'Tselem for doing this, and I appreciate that. Okay, now I'm super proud that we do a show, Young Turks, is 6 to 8 p.m. every day Eastern on YouTube, right, and all the other places we're on. And at 8 o'clock we do this RevolYOUtion, where we're trying to do a peaceful, nonviolent revolution where we crowdsource it and we bring right, left, center together, right? And one of our tasks that we decided on right in the beginning was trying to get an American kid, Mohammed Ibrahim, who was 16, out of an Israeli gulag, the kind of gulags that they're describing here. And so he immediately picked up a disease there. He lost 30% of his body weight, obviously being abused by the Israelis. And finally, there was enough pressure, not just from us, but from a lot of different people. Senator Van Hollen did a great job from Maryland. And we put enough pressure that the Israelis are like, are we not merciful? We will stop torturing the American kid. Like all the other Americans, we killed them, who cares, right? They've killed 9 Americans since October 7th. There's been no accountability. Our government doesn't even ask for accountability. Please murder more Americans, right? But we got that one American kid out of their torture prisons, right? And I feel super proud about that. And thank you to everyone in our audience that helped with that. Okay, now, look at the core of what they're saying, what Anna just reported. So first of all, every accusation is a confession, especially when it comes to the Israelis. So right after October 7th, they were like, rape. There was everything, widespread rape. Now, by the way, at that time, there was almost no evidence for it. I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but they were like, oh, we saw blood somewhere, so it must have been mass rape.
They argue that Hamas uses rape as a weapon of war, that it was a systematic thing that they do.
Yeah, and so there was no, if you dare to discuss that issue and say, okay, no, I'm totally open to it. Hamas is terrorists, and I get it, and it might be true. Can you give us evidence? Well, mainstream media would say, how dare you, you anti-Semite? We don't need any stinking evidence. They're all Muslim rapists, right? Now, meanwhile, here's the discrepancy. Now, if Hamas did that, then we should be livid with them, right? And then, by the way, all decapitated babies, and American media ran with that propaganda 24/7. Rape, decapitated babies, the Muslim terrorist, dark, right? And then you turn to Israel and you go, look, here is an Israeli human rights group saying there's rape in these Israeli prisons. American media is like, shut up. No, we're not gonna report that. Back to the propaganda, everybody. And remember, anyone who quotes an Israeli saying that these prisons are torture chambers and they're not getting their rights is an anti-Semite. How could I be an anti-Semite for quoting an Israeli human rights group? Because guys, American mainstream media is not news at all. It's just propaganda. It's marketing for the powerful, not just for Israel, but for big pharma, big oil, all those things. But yes, when it comes to Israel, it is pure propaganda, mainline, streamlined propaganda that is coming out of CBS, CNN, ABC, all the major networks. They're all pro-Israel. They will bury any news that is negative about Israel, but any news that might or might not be true about Palestinians or Muslims or Arabs, they promote to the very top and go, we don't need any stinking evidence. Oh, they're all rapists. Israel, they're all angels. And anyone who objects to the rape of all these prisoners must be an anti-Semite. No, you're getting the whole country to, like, you're aggravating people to the point where they're gonna turn into anti-Semites. Like everyone is like, I can now sense people trying really hard not to be anti-Semites, to not fall into this hatred that they want us to go into. And I'm not gonna do it because I'm anti-hatred and I'm anti-discrimination against any race or religion. I'm on the left, and ideologically I would never be in favor of it. But they keep pushing and pushing. No, Israel demands special treatment. Israel is holy and moral. Hey, did they take 53% of Gaza right in front of our eyes? Did they ethnically cleanse them, drive out literally every Palestinian, murder 70,000 at a bare minimum, 130,000 injured, 10% of all of Gaza, destroyed every building? But American media is like, I can't see it. All I can see is beautiful, glorious Israel. Jake Tapper, Anderson Cooper, are any of you guys going to report on the disgusting things that the Israelis do to Palestinians in prisons, and Palestinians that didn't even do anything wrong? There's no charges on all these, on so many of these guys.
And yeah, any word on your fellow journalists who are being slaughtered in Gaza even still? Because they just killed 3 journalists on Wednesday, one day. This is incredible. So one of them, by the way, works for CBS. I'm sure it was real painful for Bari Weiss to see that the news organization she oversees had to put out something about it, right? I wouldn't be surprised if she shared the coordinates of where the journalist was. And I'm not even kidding about that, okay? She is one of the biggest scumbags in media you could ever imagine. But Abdel Raouf Sayat, a contributor to CBS News and French press, was killed along with Mohamed Kista and Anas Ghanim after their car was hit by an Israeli strike while leaving a camp for displaced people. According to reports, the 3 journalists were recording footage of the camp while on assignment for the media arm of an Egyptian relief committee.
So Israel has now killed at a minimum 258 journalists in this conflict. It is more than
in this genocide.
And that is more journalists than all other conflicts in the world combined in that time period. The Russians are doing plenty of damage in Ukraine. There's some significant civil wars going on in Africa. But they're nowhere near the body count of Israel on journalists. Why? Because Israel's trying to kill the journalists.
Yep.
Israel has assassinated Shireen Abu Akleh, an American journalist, right? And CNN even concluded that they assassinated her. They've killed all of these journalists so that you cannot see what's going on in Gaza. And they don't allow any foreign journalists into Gaza because they know that if you put cameras in there and you have real journalists, people are gonna go, oh, it turns out the Israelis are genocidal maniacs who are slaughtering these people.
We already know though.
Okay.
I mean, banning the journalists, slaughtering the journalists, didn't hide your war crimes, did it?
So, but again, we go back to the giant liars in establishment media. And Jamal Khashoggi killed by the Saudis. You saw us be furious about that, right? They dismembered the poor guy, Washington Post columnist, not an American citizen, but it doesn't matter. He's a Washington Post columnist. How dare you, right? So we condemn Saudi Arabia 200%. That's one journalist Saudi Arabia killed. Israel kills 258 journalists, 258 versus 1. No condemnation from anyone in traditional media at all. Like you got great heroes like Trey Yingst, who's on Fox News, believe it or not. We're fair and honest, and that brother's doing great work. Jeremy Diamond doing great work. Calissa Ward, she condemned it. Yingst condemned the journalist being killed. But outside of them, almost all the major anchors are like, no, cover up the news. Don't let anyone find out how disgusting Israel is, how they murdered journalist after journalist. Okay, now, let me ask you this. So the main reason that the Israelis give for the 58-year occupation of the Palestinians, where they have kept them enslaved for 58 years, 5.5 million Palestinians is, well, they hate us.
Yeah, they do hate you. They do
I
hate
wonder
you.
why.
Seriously, like, do you see how you behave and how the international community, other than Americans that you've bought, how they see you? I mean, do you think people are gonna like you? Do you think people are gonna like you?
And you know what the problem with this mindset that they have?
They're entitled. That's the problem with the mindset. They think they get to do whatever they want and everyone needs to bow their heads to them. No, sorry, we do not comply. When you act like genocidal lunatics and maniacs, people are gonna see you as genocidal lunatics and maniacs. And you can go ahead and call me an anti-Semite, but they never call you wrong. They never tell you why you're wrong. They never do, they just smear you. They just smear you.
So we just covered the story of the New York City pensions going to Israeli bonds, the only country who gets it. And the comments that were given as a defense of that is Israel deserves special treatment. Why? Why? And when you ask the simplest question in the world, why do they deserve special treatment? They're like, anti-Semite, make sure he never works again. Do you see what you're doing? Are you insane? You're driving up hatred. Are you insane? I'm trying to minimize the hatred.
That's not your job. That's not your job. That's their job. That is their job, and they don't want to do it. They love what they're doing. They'll just smear everyone. They'll swing their power with their billionaire, oligarchs who control this country. Okay, they'll get Larry Ellison and his piece of crap son to buy up the media and shut out anyone who dare tell the truth about Israel. But we all see it, it's all abundantly clear to us. Their little games aren't working and they can't stand it. They can't stand it.
Yeah, and Scott Stringer said that Israel not getting special treatment for the first time in New York should not be normalized. Don't normalize Israel being exceptionally treated no matter what they do, right? Okay, so how do you expect the Palestinians to not hate you when you keep slaughtering them and taking their land, and you just murdered 20,000 of their kids, and you murder their journalists, and you murder the human rights workers, and you rape them in the prisons, and you put them as hostages in the prisons without any rights at all? Are the Palestinians supposed to go, oh my God, I woke up, and despite the fact that I just got raped by Israeli guards, I now love Israel? See, why do they do that, guys? Because they set unreasonable expectations on purpose so they can never get the peace, because they don't want peace, they want land. And so what you just saw with your own eyes over the last 2 years is that they just stole 53% of Gaza after murdering almost everyone in that area or driving them out through a campaign of ethnic cleansing. That is special, it's especially evil. They are one of the most evil governments in the world right now, and it's actually not that close. Like, oh, you should be afraid of Iran. And Iran, the Ayatollah sucks, and I hope they get a democracy in Iran, and we're fair to everyone. But don't tell me that I have to be like, oh my God, all these are evil countries. Israel's the one that's attacking all their neighbors, and they brutalize the Palestinians, and they demand that we bow our heads and finance all their war crimes, all their atrocities, and give them special treatment because we owe them. And the beatings will continue, the rapes will continue, the genocide will continue until the Palestinians love us. Until Hamas gives up all of its weapons. How do you know they gave up all their weapons? Until they all surrender. How do you know they all surrendered? Oh, right. These are impossible standards on purpose so they can murder more Palestinians and steal more of their land. But American media, shh. They're not news. American media is not news. It is pure propaganda for Israel. Debate me. If you, by the way, Jake Tapper, anyone, come at me. Let's do a debate. Let's do a rational debate. Your channel, my channel, an independent channel. They won't debate it. They'll just smear you. And they'll say that Israel is the greatest thing in the world and deserves everything. And we should all shut up and be occupied by Israel. No, no thanks. America, let's go, let's go, let's get free. Let's get free of Israel. I can't stand this. I don't want to pay for a genocide. I don't want to pay for a genocide of any country, and that includes Israel.
All right, when we come back from the break, we'll talk a little bit about the latest in the fatal shooting of Renee Good. There's been a private autopsy done, and part of the results have been released, and I think it's important to get into those details. We'll be right back.
All right, I'm gonna read blind again. Let's go to our members on TYT.com. Nerd Ferguson says, people being detained without charges or committing a crime, that's awful. Thank God we live in America where nothing like that is happening at all, anywhere, especially in Minneapolis. So yes, and that's why we fight it in America. That's why we fight it in Israel. We fight it everywhere because we hate authoritarianism and we hate fascism. And obviously Israel is one of the biggest fascist states in the world. And I don't want to send money to fascists. And they are, they're indisputably fascist.
100%.
Oh, what do you mean? We just keep people in open air camps and we say you're never allowed to be free and you have to serve us the rest of your life and we can murder you anytime we like because you are inferior to us and you're a subhuman. What do you mean I'm a fascist? And I run a dictatorship in the West Bank and the Gaza, and so, but I'm allowed to. I need special treatment because I am almighty Israel. We're all so sick of it. We're all so sick of it. And so, okay, go ahead. Oh, okay, you guys look ridiculous. And we all hate that kind of nonsense now. Go ahead, keep calling Americans anti-Semites. All you're doing is helping us. Go ahead, call all of us, call the entire country anti-Semites. We can't stand it anymore. Eclectic turns it around interestingly. Michael Schur and Ben Mankiewicz are both Jewish. Therefore, I think people who refuse to give all their money to TYT must be anti-Semites. Any criticism of TYT is just hate speech. How dare you not support TYT, you bigots.
I cannot accept that.
Hey, you know what?
Fair point, actually.
Eclectic, it's an interesting point. I mean, I've never done a count, but I think about a third of this company probably is Jewish, and I love them, and I'll protect them with my life. I'll protect them at all costs. They're Jewish Americans, okay? We're all brothers and sisters. That's why you're never gonna get me to be anti-Semitic. You're never, among the 1,000 reasons why, right? But no, of course, Eclectic is joking. No rational person would go, I am Jewish, I am Muslim, I am Christian, so you owe me, and you're never allowed to criticize me. No, only a propagandist would do that. Only somebody who thinks, oh, the other person's a sucker. I'm gonna play him for a fool, and I'm gonna take his money, and then if he objects, I'm gonna try to ruin his life. That's the Israeli lobby, 100%. All right, Art Guy says, Israel's expecting its domination over Australia now too, and our government is happy to bow down to them. It's infuriating. By the way, you guys want to know where they're going next? They have begun, Israel has begun to do infiltration of India because they think that America might be done. So they need a new partner. And they think, oh, the Hindus might hate Muslims. If we do a lot of propaganda to get them to hate Muslims more, then maybe we can get India on our side for murdering more Muslims and Palestinians and taking their land. Oh, wow, okay. You guys seem like real humanitarians.
Okay, can we get rid of that alliance sooner rather than later?
100%, get rid of it now.
Get rid of it now. Like, that'd be
Israel's
great.
not remotely an ally. Everyone on television is lying to you about how they're a special ally. All they've ever done is take money from us and commit war crime after war crime. That occupation for 58 years is the biggest war crime of my lifetime. When are you ever going to let them go? When you say you're not going to let them go, what Israel is saying is, we are superior to you. And these inferior Palestinians will have to suffer their fate. And we will slowly bleed them and take all of their land one by one by one. Jake Tapper, 53% of Gaza is gone. Are you gonna ever tell your audience that? No, you're gonna lie to them from Israel. All right, back on TYT. American Viking 73, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. We appreciate you. Faye Scott Smith said, YouTube member said, I just switched to Noble Mobile tonight. Hope it's worth it. Hey, Faye, report back because I know you're gonna like it. So I appreciate you guys. Check out tyt.com/switch. That's a great way that we save you guys a lot of money. From anywhere from like, all right, $30 to $50, never above $50. If you're paying above $50, it makes no sense. Nothing in your phone changes. tyt.com/switch.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not gonna lie, I was worried about like Noble Mobile, this is like a new thing, and I'm like worried that the connection isn't gonna be great. But no, the connection is fantastic. It's powered by T-Mobile. Like that's the service, the underlying service, and I've had T-Mobile and it's fantastic. So that was the only thing holding me up. That and I'm lazy. And now I'm not lazy anymore because I want to save that money.
Guys, don't pay more for no reason. You're gonna regret it. tyt.com/switch.
Yeah.
Okay, Anna.
All right, so we're switching gears here. I want to talk about the latest in the Renee Good story. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the results of a private autopsy done on Renee Good sheds more light on the fatal shooting carried out by an ICE agent in which, well, a single bullet likely ended up killing her. Now, when the story first broke, all of the reports indicated that she was shot in the face 3 times, but this autopsy makes clear that that wasn't the case. Now, the autopsy shows that Good was shot at least 3 times, sustaining wounds to her head, arm, and breast. 2 of the gunshot wounds were not immediately life-threatening, the autopsy found. 1 bullet struck Miss Good on her left forearm. Another bullet entered her body in the right breast, but did not penetrate major organs. Now, more damningly, a 3rd bullet struck her on the left side of her head near the temple, the autopsy said, and exited on the right side of her head. That's the one that killed her. That was the shot from the side of the SUV. So, Cenk, your 2 cents before I give you more details.
Yeah, so what do we say on the first day? So even when we didn't know all the facts and there's a little bit of fog of that particular situation, right? We said the first shot, we're gonna have to see what happened there. It looked like she was turning away. Certainly she was going 2 miles per hour. Seemed like the first shot was unjustified. But the next 2 shots were totally unnecessary and no one could dispute it. He shot from the side, and lo and behold, from the side, goes into the left, comes out of the right. Because he shot her once she was past him, and now he's just murdering her.
Yeah.
So that 3rd shot was a shot that murdered her, and it was 100% when he was no longer in danger. That brother should be put up on charges and he should serve a long time in prison for murdering Renee Good.
But he won't, because there has been an effort to provide cover for him, and there has been intentional misreporting and misstatements coming from the government. And I'm gonna provide evidence for that in just a minute, because we now know definitively that the ICE agent who shot and killed her was not hit by the car. Okay, so hold up so I can show you the evidence on that in just a minute. But I should also note that this private autopsy that was carried out at the request of Good's family also found that she suffered a graze wound consistent with a firearm injury, but with no penetration. So there was a fourth shot, but it grazed her. It didn't actually kind of like how the bullet grazed Trump's ear, similar to that, okay. Now, I should also note this, because this is really, really important. So this is a partial release of a private autopsy. So the lawyers firm representing Good's family declined to release the full autopsy, and results of an official autopsy that was conducted by the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office has yet to be released. So there could be some additional information that we learn in the coming days or weeks, but I wanted to make sure you all knew that this was the release of part of the private autopsy. Okay, now we also learned last week that Renee Good still had a pulse for several minutes following the shooting. So records from emergency responders show that Good was not breathing, but had an irregular pulse when local medics arrived at the scene, and had no pulse by the time they removed her from the car. Now, Minnesota State Senator Matt Klein, who also happens to be a doctor, held a press conference last week where he said that she had a pulse for 8 minutes after getting shot. Now, why is that relevant? Well, it's relevant because, as we all know, and there's surveillance footage to prove this, there was a medical professional on the scene who offered to provide, help to Good following the shooting, but he was blocked from being able to do so. Many argue that ICE can't just allow random private citizens to, provide medical assistance right then and there on the scene. It could be a liability, but that might come up because it does seem clear to me that Good's family appears to be investigating this for a potential civil lawsuit.
Yeah, and of course they should do a civil lawsuit. So look, the point of ICE is to go in and agitate locally until something terrible happens. And then they double down, and then they quadruple down, and then they do it to more and more cities. Why? Because Trump is an authoritarian, and he loves the idea of the military in the streets. In fact, he's tried to put the military in the streets now 2-3 different times.
No, he's a fascist, okay? The ICE agents are the brown shirts. So at this point, he's a fascist. What's being carried out is indicative of a fascist regime. All right, we got into that debate. I said he's authoritarian, but I wouldn't call him a fascist because he's not a guy who's driven by ideology. He's not driven by the ideology of fascism. No, this is fascism. Anyway, continue.
So it doesn't really matter if you call it authoritarian or fascist, in my opinion, right? So the bottom line is he wants to be in charge of a country that is living under military rule, and he is the unquestioned leader of that country. And he has said 1,000 times about how, I went to China and North Korea and all these places. Oh my God, these dictators are amazing. No one's allowed to disagree with them. Whenever they walk into a room, they get standing ovation. He wants that kind of adulation because he's a man-child. He's a pathetic man-child. So he loves the idea of agitating everyone and what does it do? It divides the country. So now some people are dug in going, no, ICE is great and we got to kill the immigrants and whatever and it's all right. If there's just like 1% risk, 0.00001% risk, what a real man does is shoot a woman in the head 3 times. No, that's not what a real man does. That's what a super weak man does. Super weak, okay? Oh, it's a woman in a car going 2 miles per hour. Boom, 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 assassinate her, right? No, that's not what that strong man does. That's what a pathetic man does. So now we're back to fighting. Oh, perfect. Trump loves it, the oligarchs love it, the donors love it. Good, we got the left and the right to constantly fight each other and kill each other. Meanwhile, they're not noticing the frickin' robbery. Non-stop robbery. Israel robs us, pharma robs us, oil robs us, defense contractors rob us. But we're at each other's throats in the streets And Trump and his donors are laughing their ass off at Mar-a-Lago wearing weirdo dog masks and having sick parties. Like, we got the poors to fight each other and kill each other. Now let's rob them. And that's what Trump and his stupid donors are doing. Yep. The donors have been robbing us through Democratic and Republican administrations for my entire life while they got us to fight. But congrats, Trump. You got us to fight because no, I'm not going to accept a woman being shot in the head and executed by your thugs, by your masked thugs in the streets with no badges. That is un-American. You are the exact opposite of a patriot. You believe in a thuggish third world dictatorship.
Yep.
And I love America, where we have cops who have badges, we can see them, and they are accountable to the community. But you don't want that. You don't want America.
So let's talk a little bit about the definitive proof that the ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, who shot and killed Renee Good, did not actually get hit by the car at all. At all. So let's show you the evidence. The New York Times poured over all the videos that are available, looked at everything and put together an analysis. The analysis is available on YouTube if you want to check it out, but I'm going to show you the two parts that are most relevant. Starting with the first part, let's take a look.
Here, the agent's cell phone footage shows he's moving directly in front of the SUV as it's reversing and rotating towards him, initiating a 3-point turn apparently to leave. Law enforcement officers are trained to avoid doing this because it puts them in danger and often leads to the use of force against drivers. The cell phone is focused squarely on Miss Good. She looks down, shifts into drive, and begins turning to the right, away from the agent. Cut to this high angle and zoom in. We can make out the agent's body and his arm filming. We can also see at the same time, he's beginning to lift his other arm. On these cameras, we can see what's happening around Agent Ross. The other agent is yelling orders and reaching into Miss Good's SUV. Her front tire spins as she continues turning right. Agent Ross is at least a few feet away from Miss Good's SUV. He does not appear to move out of the way.
Okay, so you see how far he is from her vehicle. As, by the way, she's pulling back and turning to obviously flee. It's clear. Now, the next video is gonna show you whether or not Ross got hit with her SUV. Let's watch.
This is also the moment many have said looks like Agent Ross getting run over. And it does when watched at full speed. But looking more closely, we can see in multiple angles that there's a visible gap between the vehicle and his legs, indicating his feet are positioned outside the SUV's path. The agent's left hand is still against the vehicle and gripping his phone. We see as he fires, it's recording the clouds and the trees overhead. It's not because the agent is knocked to the ground. The other angle shows he's still standing, continuing to maintain his grip on his phone and his gun, and we see a clear and growing gap between his body and the SUV as he fires a second shot and a third.
So he was never hit by the SUV. And the shot that actually ended up killing her was one of the last shots to her head as he was already to the side of her vehicle.
You know what depresses me, Anna, is that part of
She's a white liberal though. She's a white liberal woman. So it's okay, right? It's okay. She's a white liberal woman, so it's okay. That's one of the arguments that I've seen all over the internet.
And a lesbian.
You people are disgusting.
Yeah.
Okay, un-American, disgusting. Go ahead.
What depresses me is that partisanship brain gets people to look at that and go, she had it coming. How could you possibly conclude that from that? So guys, two things I focus on in this new video. One, I had never, until today, I had not seen how far in front of the car he was, the coward of the country, Jonathan Ross, okay? He's so far from the car. It's the easiest thing in the world to take one step to the side. Now, eventually he does take a step to the side, right?
And proceeds to continue shooting her.
But he's still holding the phone. Like the claim is, oh, I'm in so much mortal danger. But I'm still holding my phone, I got my gun out, I'm doing all this. And by the way, Now she's made the full turn, and as we told you on day one, 2 shots from the side, totally gratuitous, no reason for it, and the 3rd shot murders her. No, guys, but somehow partisanship is so strong that seemingly rational human beings look at that video and go, oh, what a hero Jonathan Ross was. My God, he was almost dead. He didn't even drop the phone. He's so far from the car. And you could see that you could step aside. By the way, there is legally, if you can get out of the way of a car, that your self-defense claim is much weaker. You have almost no chance of that working if you could get out of the way of the car. And he obviously could get out of the way of the car because, by the way, he did. He did get out of the way of the car. He could have gotten out of the way earlier, and then he murdered her after he got out of the way of the car.
Yeah.
So there's no question about it, but partisanship melts our brains. So that tons of right wingers are looking at that and going, oh, whew, man, he was this close to death. Thank God he protected himself.
No, they convinced themselves that it was justified. That's what happens. And I get being so ideologically driven that you let that ideology turn you into a total dumbass. I get it. It's happened to me before. That's why I waited until we saw definitive proof of whether or not he got hit by the car. Everything else that I had seen did not convince me one way or the other. This analysis, this video is definitive proof. I mean, can you imagine the egg on Barry Weiss's face when she decided to run that stupid story claiming that Ross had to be hospitalized because he suffered from internal bleeding? I remember when I saw that story, it got pitched, and I just knew right away. I got like a sick feeling in my stomach. It's that intuition. I'm like, there's something up with this. I don't trust it. I'm not gonna talk about it on the show yet. I need more proof.
Okay, last 2 things for me on this. If you're a right winger and you're hating what we're saying and you think, oh, he was on the edge of death and oh, thank God she was murdered or whatever you think, right? Do you really believe the internal bleeding story? You comment in the comments below. I'm curious. Is there a single person in the country who's so warped by partisanship that they think that guy had internal bleeding? Okay, all right. Now this last thing is, this isn't gonna work because most of the establishment media is like CBS, so they probably love what's happening there, right? But if any real journalists out there, you should ignore literally every story coming out of CBS News, not because every story is wrong, but because you don't know which ones are propaganda and which ones are true, which then makes it so that you can't trust any of their stories. Because some of it is propaganda on behalf of Trump. Oh, Trump is such a genius for bringing ICE into the streets. Poor ICE agent was suffering from internal bleeding. Total lie, 100% lie. They mix it in with some true stories. And then of course on Israel, everything is a lie, right? Literally everything CBS says about Israel is a lie. So now, okay, which one is lies and which one is true? Well, then you're junk, you're total junk. CBS should be in a different category. It's not news. It's mainly Israeli and Trump marketing, okay? That's the category it belongs in. You should ignore every story that comes out of there.
I totally agree. All right, that does it for our first hour. We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're probably gonna debate Andrew Tate's statements on the PBD podcast in regard to why there's been a rise of anti-Semitism. So we've got that and more coming, don't miss it.
Hey Andrew, what's up?
Hey Cenk, you ready to make the switch?
Yeah, I guess.
I promise it's easy, universal, basic, and you get income.
Yeah, you keep saying that. But you sure I'm gonna have coverage?
Of course you will. You think I would have bad service? I'm Andrew Yang, of course I have good service.
All right, let's try it. But I'm so bad at tech, so wait. Should I do this thing of the hashtag business? Andrew, you're still on, right?
Yep.
Oh, I see it. No, wait, I don't see. Oh yeah, I do see it. Here we go.
I actually did not realize that you'd be searching in real time, but I love it.
How much do people actually normally say?
Yeah, the average American is gonna save between $500 and $1,000 a year on Noble.
Yeah, no, you know what I'm gonna do, Andrew? Are you ready to become a Noble member? The 2 buttons are do it and go back. There's no going back, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Here we go, Noble Mobile.
Oh my gosh, I just called you and are you now on Noble and not Verizon?
Why didn't you tell me it was gonna be super easy?
I know, man. Now you just stay away from your phone and watch the money roll in.
I can do that. Here you go, phone, yeah.
What the
Cenk, you still there?
Andrew? Oh, well, at least I got Noble Mobile.
It was really just one take. The whole thing is wild.
It's in my shoe. It's in my shoes.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
All the people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning. They seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
There was a point where I did want to throw hands, but I'm bigger than you.
I know you are, but what am I?
TYT, the online news network. Boxy Brown 6900, thank you for gifting a membership. We appreciate it. A couple programming notes. Tomorrow we're gonna do something really interesting. Former Congresswoman Marie Newman is gonna join us again. She's the one that had that amazing story about how the Democrats tried to bully her after she voted for Israel, and they threatened her, and then they've followed through on that threat. Anyway, she's gonna bring on 4 congressional candidates that she thinks are really interesting.
She voted for Israel?
No, she voted for Israel like everyone does on all these issues.
Oh, got it.
And then they asked for another expenditure. And she's like, no, we already gave them the money and this is not justified. 4 Democrats came down to her after she voted no, and they started yelling at her and they said, we're gonna take away all your money and we're gonna spend all this money against you. You mess with Israel and you're in a lot of trouble, right? Democrats,
right?
Okay, so that's Marie Newman. She's an American hero. She's gonna be on the RevolYOUtion on Friday, and with 4 great candidates that you guys should find out about. So 6 to 8 p.m. is Young Turks, 8 p.m. is RevolYOUtion. Tonight, by the way, unfortunately, one of the members of our community at TYT passed away. And we want to tell you about that person. He was a moderator here, and we love him, and we're gonna talk about it at 8 o'clock. And then the last thing is we've got a new sponsor, Cook Unity, and they're wonderful. I actually eat their stuff all the time. There I am eating their butter shrimp. And so they've got excellent food from top chefs, Food Network alum, James Beard winners. And they have this copy where it says balancing seasonal ingredients with bold flavors and nutrition. Bottom line is, brothers, it is definitely delicious. I loved it. I continue to have it. I've tried like 8 different dishes of theirs. I like it. My family likes it. And it makes everything super easy. That's what I love about it. I don't have time for anything. They give me a delicious meal that's affordable. I love it. So to go to cookunity.com/TYT or enter the code TYT before checkout to get 50% off your first order. That's 50% off your first order by using code TYT or going to cookunity.com/TYT. Give it a shot. I think you'll really like it. All right, Anna.
All right, well, we go from something that you might really like to someone you might really hate. So let's get into it.
The topic of Israel, it's always the Jews. Jews are in charge, they're doing this. Do you think we're here for this news cycle? Or do you think we're here? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. I think the Gaza situation was putting a huge spotlight on Israel. That seems to have died down now. The flotilla's gone and the bombing has stopped. That's a big part of it. But I do believe there is a huge percentage of the young male population which are so disenfranchised with the system that they're looking for somebody to blame.
Israel slaughtered 3 additional Palestinian journalists in Gaza on Wednesday alone. So no, the genocide has not stopped and the bombing hasn't stopped, but the faux ceasefire that Trump would like you to believe has been agreed upon by Israel and Hamas is not being respected by Israel at all. So the slaughter campaign continues. But nonetheless, there you have Patrick Bet-David and Andrew Tate discussing the topic of anti-Semitism on the right. And Tate is trying to explain why it's a rising issue on the right. And so before we get to the statements made and whether or not we agree with them, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, there is actually one thing that Andrew Tate says here, actually the core thing he says that I shockingly agree with, because I disagree with everything else that Tate says. But guys, that leads to the really important conversation. There's a problem and there's a solution. Those are 2 different things. A lot of people, not all people, have correctly figured out what the problem is, but I think they've got the wrong solution. So we're gonna talk about all that after Anna gives you the facts.
So let me just preface this by saying that I don't really care what Andrew Tate thinks about literally anything. I think that he's a bad person. I think that he lacks morals. He is not someone I would want family members of mine or children within my family to listen to, because I think that he's a horrible person, period. Okay, that's where I stand on Andrew Tate. Nonetheless, there are people on the right, and you see it all over social media, who are just overtly anti-Semitic, okay? They don't hide it, they blame everything on Jewish people. I have no problem with criticism toward the nation state of Israel, meaning their government, their military. That is very different to me than going after the entirety of the Jewish population or going after people because they're Jewish. With that in mind, as you're probably aware, Tate is a self-professed misogynist who built his brand on demeaning women, and you're gonna get a little taste of that in this next clip. Let's take a look.
Young men are waking up in a world where they stand no chance of having any of the things their fathers had. They're never gonna have a wife who respects them and loves them because their wife's on TikTok and believes she deserves a G-Wagon full of roses. And they believe they need a Lambo at 19. And nobody wants to work a job because jobs don't pay. And nobody wants to go to school because a degree isn't gonna pay. And nobody can save up to buy a house because you can no longer compound your work in dollars. You can't go to work, do an hour's work, put it in the bank, do another hour's work, put it in the bank and save up to buy a house because you're being outpaced by inflation, money printing, all these wars, all this Somali fraud, taxes. You're being outpaced. You can't even save money anymore. So when young men are waking up in a world where their only chance to possibly get rich is effectively gamble on crypto, literally gamble, they're sitting here going, well, this system's broken. Who's behind this system? Why am I living in such a broken system? And there is a theory, and there's many theories as to who's in charge of the world or who built this system or why the system's so broken. There is a theory that it's the Jews.
Oh, really? There are young right-wingers in this country who are blaming the fact that they can't enter a relationship with a woman on the Jews? That's the reason?
Look, man, Israel might have done a lot of things wrong, but If you can't get laid, that was not on them, brothers, let alone Jewish people at large.
Also, Andrew Tate, who's the male version of the regarded Pearl Davis, has like the most idiotic view of the two genders you could imagine. Oh yes, all females in the United States are just on TikTok and they're all entitled, and these poor men, they can't find a good woman because of that. Like, enough with the pathetic excuses, okay? Like, take ownership of your loserdom instead of pointing to other people. Now, the economic stuff though that he mentioned, I think he might have a point there, okay? But I would word it a little differently. I'm curious what you think. I'll tell you what I mean in just a second.
Yeah, so guys, this is what I mean by problem and solution, right? So he just happens to be in the news today, and it's a good example to talk through. So he's not the only one that's figured out what the real problem is. Most people have figured out what the real problem is, right? So the problem is economics. The problem is, yes, the jobs are not paying enough. What have you heard us say for the last 20 years on the Young Turks? Wages have not gone up in 50 years when adjusted for inflation, and prices continue to go up. So that is going to create basically economic calamity for real Americans. Now, the thing is, the people in charge don't feel any of it. In fact, they feel the opposite because it is wealth redistribution to the top. So they keep getting richer and richer, and they don't know, a lot of them don't know that they're the ones stealing all the money, right? Or taking all the money. And then it's a little taking, a little stealing. And so they think like, well, I don't get it, everything's great. Let's press down more on the average American, right? Let's make their lives a little bit more miserable, but they don't know that they're doing that. So they can't even understand the core problem. The only people who don't understand the problem is people in establishment media and almost everyone in government. And they're all incredibly rich, incredibly privileged, and elitists. So Andrew Tate doesn't deserve a medal for figuring out the obvious, which is the problem is economic, right?
Yeah.
And the elites have crushed the average American. So we figured that out 20 years ago. So thank you for catching up. So now the question is, what is the solution? And so he's saying, well, some think the solution is like the problem is being created by the Jews, so the solution would be to hate the Jews. That's ludicrous.
No, that's not a solution to anything. And this is the thing though, I feel like the way he communicates about this, he almost like disconnects the anger and frustration people are feeling economically from the reality of our government prioritizing Israel, not Jews, Israel, a foreign country, prioritizing them over the American people. And you wanna know something? That enrages me to no end. Now, I'm not an idiot, so I don't cave into the dumb ideology of hate. I'm not gonna blame Jewish people for that. I'm gonna blame a nation state that has undue influence over our politicians because we have a broken political system that has legalized bribery. And foreign countries, Israel being the first one, the most successful one, take advantage of that.
So we probably are the show that emphasizes this the most. For God's sake, separate out Israel and Jews, okay? Jewish Americans are our brothers and sisters, and we should under no circumstances discriminate against them. Israel is a foreign government. Easy to understand unless you're a propagandist for Israel, right?
Exactly.
Because I am Turkish ethnically, but I do not represent the Turkish government, and the Turkish government does not represent me. I'm an American, I have nothing to do with the Turkish government. Jewish Americans are Americans, have nothing to do with the Israeli government, okay? So now if someone here in this country says, yeah, but I love Israel way more than I love America, and I demand that you give all your money to Israel, and I demand that you ignore their war crimes. Okay, they're Israel first. And so they're like raising their hand and going, I don't really give a damn about America. I love Israel and I want to manipulate America into giving money to Israel and aiding and abetting them. That's a different category. Those are people who have made a political decision in that direction. They do not represent all Jewish Americans. In fact, a giant number of Jewish Americans totally disagree and are fighting back against that group, right? So it is very harmful and incorrect. It is factually incorrect to say the Jews. That's absurd.
Yep.
On the other hand, if you'd like special dispensation for Israel and how we should fund them for the rest of our life, you can take a long walk off a short dock. So Israel could go pound sand. We should give them $0. They're a foreign government in the middle of a genocide, and their government is disgusting.
Yep.
Different governments do terrible things at different times. Right now, it happens to be Israel doing the terrible thing, and obviously we shouldn't fund them. But did they cause you to not get laid in America? No, that doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna tell you what the real problem is in a second. Back to you, Heather.
No, I mean about getting laid.
No, the real problem in America overall, not the getting laid part.
No, the real problem, Cenk, I mean the real problem in America overall is we have a government that doesn't serve us. We have a government that serves a foreign country. And so when you're walking the streets in your own neighborhood and you see everything crumbling, when you hear members of Congress nickel and dime the American people when it comes to things like healthcare, when it comes to things like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, when you hear people like Ben Shapiro talk about how you should never retire, retiring at 65 is insane, it makes you angry because it seems like we have unlimited money for Israel, but when it comes to our own people, we leave them in the dust, we neglect them, we forget about them, we let them live and die on the streets. That's what infuriates people, okay? Now, some people will turn to bigotry, hatred, discrimination. Others want to change the political system so others don't take advantage of our politicians so they neglect us and look out and prioritize a foreign country.
All right, so I think the solution is a little bit broader than that, but I understand everything you're saying. Let's give them the rest of the clips and then I'll give what I think is the solution.
Oh, okay, fine. Let's go to one more clip. Next one.
I don't think it matters what Israel does, or Bibi, what he says, or what Trump says. I don't think any of that matters. When you have all these men out here who have no hope of building a good life, they're gonna find somebody to blame for it, whether it's immigrants. That's what it is in European countries. There's definitely a large percentage of people on the internet who are looking for someone to blame as opposed to taking personal responsibility to fix the problem. There's no Jew that's stopping you from going to the gym and being in good shape. No Jew is stopping you walking into a gym. So like you have personal responsibility and personal accountability. And in many situations, even if they're unfair, even if the game is rigged, the best thing you can do is say, well, these are the rules I'm playing within and I have to try and win and take absolute personal responsibility for everything.
Personal responsibility or lack of taking personal responsibility is not the issue here. There's literally nothing Americans can do to improve the economic disaster that we are dealing with thanks to our government making decisions that do not prioritize us. Going to the gym isn't gonna solve that.
So when he talked about blaming the Jews, he mainly talked about Nick Fuentes. In that little clip there, that was, especially for Tate, shockingly accurate. He said, look, in Europe, they're trying to find someone to blame them. They're blaming immigrants. Here, some are blaming Jews, right? And that is wrong. So he's right about personal responsibility overall as a concept, but Anna's also right. Yes, but our government has to set fair rules, right? And so that gets us to the real solution. And the solution is money out of politics. Why? Because guys, as long as we have legalized bribery, it's not just Israel. Every single lobby is going to rob us until the cows come home. We cannot negotiate drug prices. That's insane. That is the least free market thing you could imagine. And our media gaslights us and tells us, no, that's perfectly normal. No, literally no other country does it. And no other country has legalized bribery like we have. But our media tells us it's perfectly normal. Everybody shut up. And what's happened is, well, all those companies have paid for lower wages. The federal minimum wage is still $7.25. That's $15,000 a year if you work every single day for the whole year, Monday through Friday. Now, why have they kept those wages low? Because the business interests are giving to the politicians, and their number one cost is what? You guys, employees. So they order their dogs in Congress, hey, come here, puppy, okay, Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. Lower wages, stupid average Americans, crush them. Higher drug prices, higher housing prices. Why? Because they make more money if the housing prices are higher, drug prices are higher. Oil companies are like, give me subsidies, rob the average American and give it to me. And every dog in Congress goes, yes, sir, of course, sir. Where's my bribe, sir? Oh, yes, I got the bribe. So the people in Congress are the ones you should be furious at. They have betrayed you. And they're actively trying to kill the American dream as we speak. Also, you should be furious at establishment media that has helped them trick all of you into thinking this is normal. None of this is normal. And the rage is building. And when the rage then erupts in unhealthy ways where people mislead you about the solution. Oh, if you just hate immigrants enough, if you just hate Jews enough, that'll fix it. How the hell would that fix it? And who has the real power, guys? Is it the guy who crossed the border a minute ago with no money? Is it the guy on your left, the guy on your right? No, of course the guys with the power are the ones up top with all the money and power. The people that the mainstream media is protecting. The politicians are serving. So if you can get money out of politics, you'll end the corruption. Wolf-pack.com. I mean, look, I set up Wolfpack to do it. There's a million ways you could do it, but we've got to get the money out. If we don't, here's what corporations are gonna do eventually, because we live under corporate rule. They're going to get your wages to a barely sustainable level. Now, I've been all across the country, and what everyone is telling me is, I'm at a barely sustainable level. I can't save anymore. I can't save at all. And meanwhile, the prices have gone up so much. I talked to, and this is a funny thing to say, but an Ethiopian immigrant in America, and he told me, I might go back to Ethiopia soon. I was like, really? I've almost never heard that from any immigrant that comes to America. And they said, well, in America, you can't save any money. And then I turned and I looked to see how can I buy a house, and the housing prices are astronomical. So the dream is gone.
This is a dying empire, okay? Following 9/11, when we started engaging in all of these Middle East wars on behalf of Israel, by the way, we went from having an economic surplus to now drowning in $40 trillion in debt, okay? We're sending more military assets to Iran right now as we speak, because of course, we're not governed by the United States of America. We're not governed by the American government. Okay, we take marching orders from a foreign government, and people are angry about that. They're not bad people for being angry about that. But if you feel the anger, don't let that be redirected toward hatred toward innocent people or an entire group of people. And yes, I'm talking about Jewish individuals. There are many Jewish individuals who have a huge problem with our broken political system and a huge problem with what was carried out in Gaza and continues to be carried out in Gaza at the hands of the Israelis. So just be smart and judge people as individuals.
Yeah, last thing on it is, to back up what Anna's saying on two fronts. One, we have $38 trillion deficit right now, and just like 8 trillion of the 38, which is a giant number, was on the global war on terror, which is actually the global war on Israel's enemies. So not only did we give them $300 billion, not only have we enabled their genocide, et cetera, and given them an extra 30 billion for that, but we spent 8 trillion trying to destroy all of their enemies. Why?
And we're not done yet, by the way. We're not done yet.
And that's why I tell you, establishment media is one of the biggest cancers in this country. They pretend to be objective, they're the exact opposite. As we were throwing that money in the trash, they kept telling us, we have to do it, we have to do it. Israel's so special and wonderful, we have to kill all of their enemies and spend $8 trillion doing it, okay? So, but back to Anna's second point, well, who was the guy who was most against that? Bernie Sanders, okay? And I fought like hell for Bernie Sanders to win in 2016 and 2020 because it doesn't have anything to do with religion. It has to do with what's in your head and what's in your heart. And Bernie Sanders is a wonderful guy. There's many other wonderful people that are fighting for the right reasons. Do not make it about religion. You fall into the trap of hatred and we never get out of that. Go back towards the light and say, stand for America, get our government back, not just from Israel, but from all of the lobbyists and all of the donors. And you'll never do that until you end the corruption. Anyone who isn't talking about the corruption is trying to deceive you. And that includes almost all of the rest of media.
All right, we'll be back with, we should talk about the brown shirts. They're here, it's pretty obvious, and I'll tell you why I think that.
Michael Cotavelli writes in on Super Chat, Andrew Tate was in Miami this past weekend with his fellow influencers at a club dancing, sinking and saluting to a Kanye West song that YouTube won't allow me to spell. Yep. So that was a little bit later in our story. We didn't get to it, but yeah, Nick Fuentes and Myron Gaines.
I mean, look, you play
Tate.
stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I'm so sick of trolls and people doing these ridiculous stunts, sucking the air out of the room. Like,
yeah.
Anyway.
And it works. They get more and more attention.
You got the attention. Congratulations. Yeah. Everyone thinks you guys are scumbags.
Yeah. Cassandra Kapernica writes, and Tate, Epstein, Trump are exactly the type of animal womankind have been excluding from the human genome. Nobody wants them.
Good point.
Oof, that is a tough way of putting it. I like it. And so Mikardo writes in, Netanyahu is the biggest anti-Semite there is. He's the one equating Israel with Jews and vice versa. People who may not be politically savvy believe him. They wrongly think Jews are responsible for the genocide and apartheid. That is 100% right. He's doing massive damage to Jews across the world, and he doesn't care. Because people with Israel, mind, brain, I don't know what we would call it, partisan brain. So people with Israel brain, they think, oh, I don't mind endangering Jews. So what? Israel's more important than anything in the world. Israel's number one. The next second priority, which might be Jews, is like 2 million. I don't care about it at all. They're so obsessed with Israel that they've lost the plot. What was the point of Israel? The point of Israel was to protect Jewish people. Now Israel is endangering all Jewish people, and they're like, yes, what, you idiots, you idiots. What are you doing? Why would you equate a genocide with Jews? The world's worst anti-Semites would do that. And Netanyahu, Mark Levin, and Laura Loomer and Ben Shapiro are like, if you don't love genocide, you hate Jews. Are you insane? And then of course they'll call us anti-Semites because they're lunatics, total lunatics. Constant Kavira says it's anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. Maybe the next should run ads saying that Republicans are anti-Semitic for criticizing single-payer healthcare. Constantine, at first I didn't get what you were saying, but now I get it, like upon the second reading of it. So he's saying, well, if Israel does single-payer healthcare and you criticize single-payer healthcare, you're criticizing Israel, anti-Semite. Okay, you better get Medicare for all right now, otherwise you're all anti-Semites. Imagine if we all did that trick, okay? It's such an obvious trick. The people in media, are you that stupid? Everybody who works on cable news, are you morons? Are you so dumb that you can't tell that that's a trick? Just calling everyone who criticizes Israel an anti-Semite? You missed that trick? Nah, you're cowards or you're complicit. Okay, let me go back to Michael because he also wrote in something on TYT.com. Where did Michael's comment go? Damn it, so good. All right, I'll go to the next one. All right. Well, Rob 3 Chatsworth says, off topic, but I listened to James Tallarico on Ezra Klein's podcast recently. He's a strong candidate, and I hope he gets past Crockett. The Dems need his voice nationwide to rebut Dems are godless Smith. I'd like to see him in an interview on TYT. We're gonna try that. Thank you for the suggestion. He is an interesting candidate. We'll have him on. All right, back on TYT. Anna, Cenk, and Ben K. Thanks for joining, brother. Anna.
Let's get to our next story.
Walls wants you to imagine that ICE will come banging on your door and shout, "Where are the brown people?" And you'll shake in fear, hoping they don't discover the Mexicans hiding in your attic. And of course, if you aren't, it's pretty hard to imagine this scenario because it's so fake. He says they're pulling over and kidnapping people indiscriminately, which has also never happened, not once. He says ICE is demanding to see the papers of US citizens, which in addition to being false, doesn't make sense.
Now, some brown shirts who operate as media commentators to disguise the fact that they're brown shirts, people like Matt Walsh, are lying to you. That's the whole point of what they do, because it turns out that everything that he just claimed is fake, that isn't happening, has been happening. And in fact, we have some evidence to provide to show that it's been happening at the hands of ICE, of course, whose agents get 47 days of training. Trump cut it down from 6 months to 47 days because he thought it would be cute to do 47 days because he's the 47th president.
It's so cute.
So you have untrained, agents out there terrorizing people. We all see the videos, we see the stories. And Matt Walsh says, just ignore your lying eyes. It's not happening, Cenk.
Yeah, a mom of 3 didn't just get murdered in front of your eyes. No, they gave her roses. And they're not masked, and they have badges. But none of that is true. Do they arrest US citizens? All right, Anna, give them the story and the real facts so you can find out what a liar Matt Walsh is.
Now, a lot of the examples have been coming out of Minnesota for obvious reasons. The Trump administration has focused most of its attention on Minnesota, although I want to be clear, these types of incidents are happening in many blue cities, liberal cities across the country. So in Minnesota, there were 4 children from a single school district who were picked up by ICE just this month, and that includes a 5-year-old boy by the name of Liam Ramos. So let's watch a video that explains the details on that.
A local school district who's sounding alarms, they say, about 4 of their students taken into ICE custody, including a 5-year-old boy who they say was detained with his father in the family's driveway. The district alleges that another adult in the home begged agents to leave the child with them, but that the agents refused. NBC News reached out to DHS about this overnight for comment. They didn't respond to us, but the agency did tell the Washington Post that their policy is to ask parents if they want to be removed with their children or be placed with a person designated by the parent.
Now, it is true that parents can request to be detained with their child, but DHS has yet to explain why they didn't allow the 5-year-old to stay with the relatives in the home who begged for him to stay. When Liam's middle school aged brother returned home about 20 minutes later, he found that his younger brother and father had both been taken away. The family's lawyer says that they are not US citizens, but, and this is an important but, have been following the legal process perfectly, from presenting themselves at the border to applying for asylum to waiting for the process to go through. But the Trump administration doesn't respect the legal means of entering the country either. So that's the reason why there have been stories of ICE agents literally snatching people up as they appear for their court hearings. So they're following the law by going to court. And as they show up, they get arrested. So you know what that does? You know what that would tell me if I were here, not illegally because I'm claiming asylum or whatever, I have my day in court. That would communicate to me, whatever you do not show up to your court date. So great job, ICE. But on top of that, 2 17-year-olds from the district were also taken by ICE. One of those students were on their way to school and was removed from their car earlier Tuesday and taken by armed and masked agents, believed to be ICE agents, according to the Columbia Heights Public School news release. No parents were present. There was a 10-year-old girl who was also detained with her mother, according to the district. During the arrest, the child called her father to tell him the ICE agents were bringing her to school. The father immediately came to the school to find that both his daughter and wife had been taken. But ICE's abuses, I want to be clear, go well beyond one district, and it goes beyond immigrants. Okay, because American citizens have been dealing with the brunt of this out of control ICE situation. So Nasra Ahmed is a good example, 23-year-old US citizen who was arrested in her neighborhood and detained by ICE. Here she is recounting what happened. And again, remember, 23-year-old American citizen.
ICE came, they came out of their cars, they asked me to see my ID. And while they were asking me to see the ID, that man, he called me the N-word. They pushed me hard, they used a lot of violence, my body still hurts, I got a concussion. It's really hard for me to speak because of that concussion. And I was screaming, I was crying, I was so scared. never been arrested in my life. I don't have like a criminal record. I have a clean record. I was literal cuffs were put on my legs, cuffs on my hands, and I was actually detained with a Native American woman. And God bless her heart, she went through a lot too. She was also detained by ICE, and she was also a U.S. citizen, and like me, and she had gashes on her face. They shattered her window. I'll never forget, like, the fear that we both felt in our hearts that day.
So they're detaining Native Americans who, I don't know if you know that, they're called Native Americans because they're native to this land. By the way, it's not just American citizens either. They're even racially profiling sworn deputies, local police officers. Now, how do I know that? Am I just making it up? Or could it be that the police chief for Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, disclosed it during a press conference just a few days ago? Let's take a look.
We, as law enforcement community, have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations in our streets from U.S. citizens. What we're hearing is they're being stopped in traffic stops or on the street with no cause and being forced to demand paperwork to determine if they are here legally. As this went on over the past 2 weeks, we started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color who has had this happen to them.
And detainees are being choked to death. And I know that due to autopsies that have been released. So let's get to that. A medical examiner just ruled that an ICE detainee's death was in fact a homicide. Geraldo Lunas Campos, a 55-year-old Cuban man who was detained at Camp East Montana in El Paso, died during an interaction with guards after being placed into solitary confinement. And that's according to the government. A fellow detainee who said he witnessed the incident claimed that Campos had been asking for his medication. Reports indicate that individuals who have been detained have been denied medical treatment and medication. Adam Gonzalez, deputy medical examiner for El Paso County, said in his autopsy report that based on the investigation and examination findings, it is my opinion that the cause of death is asphyxia due to neck and torso compression. The manner of death is homicide. So 3 men, by the way, have died in the same facility in just the past 2 months. And since Trump retook office, deaths at ICE facilities have increased significantly. I should note that currently ICE is detaining about 68,500 people, migrants specifically.
Yeah, so Anna used the word brown shirts. So why would you do that? Well,
that's what they are.
Because you saw some of those pictures and you've seen it 1,000 times. There's literally armed mass thugs in our streets, and we don't know who they are. So we don't know their identities, they don't have badges. So they're terrorizing people in the streets. But not only that, they're above the law, because you know you're not gonna get any justice for Renee Good, who was murdered in Minneapolis. And you're very unlikely to get justice for Campos. These are people who were killed, but Trump keeps saying, nope, no way. If they're part of ICE, I'm not gonna prosecute them. So let me ask you a question. Even if you're, a Matt Walsh fan or something, what's to stop them from doing anything? They know that they're not ever going to be held accountable. So what's to stop them from starting to rape people? And go, oh no, she was going to hit me, so I did something to her first, or I was gonna say, or assaulting people there, but they're assaulting people every single day, like over and over again. They're now killing people, and they're above the law. No, they're not gonna get any justice at all. So we've got armed, masked men in our streets that are above the law. That's kind of the definition of a brown shirt, right?
Yeah, you're right about that, 100%. Stephen Miller has said on the record during an interview, and it went viral again recently, that ICE agents have total immunity when they're on the job. And the way that the administration has behaved following the fatal shooting of Renee Good makes that abundantly clear to me. You have Donald Trump coming out and accusing Renee Good of literally running over an ICE agent. And now all the video has shown, and this is a New York Times analysis where they show the video as evidence, the car didn't even make contact with the ICE agent's body at all.
Yeah.
So it's just, with all this information, Cenk, just keep in mind, this is the backdrop of what the House of Representatives just voted to approve today. What did they vote to approve? A government funding bill to the tune of $1.2 trillion. In that government funding bill, there's nearly 65 billion with a B dollars for DHS. And included in that DHS funding is a specific allocation of $10 billion for ICE. So this is all happening. They're terrorizing Americans, okay? And our House of Representatives is like, great, $10 billion for ICE, okay. 7 Democrats voted in favor of it. 7 Democrats.
So if you think we're doing hyperbole, hold on. Now, we've reported stories of guys who are not ICE, who are pretending to be ICE, masked, unidentified, just like ICE, have a van just like ICE, and pulling women into the van and raping them, right?
Yep.
Now, when we catch them, we do hold them to account because they're not ICE. But Stephen Miller is saying if ICE does that on duty, like does anything on duty, they should be above the law. So that same exact fact pattern, if you're not ICE, you're gonna go to jail, hopefully for 20 years or longer. But if you are ICE, that's okay.
Look, as much as it pains me to be fair to Stephen Miller, okay? He didn't say that ICE agents can literally rape people on the job.
No, he said they're above the law.
But he did say total immunity.
Total immunity means I could rob you, I could assault you, I could kill you. By the way, we've seen the assaults and the killings, so that's not in dispute. I could rape you, I could do whatever I want to you. That's above the law, okay? So, all right, last thing, look, if you're on the right and you say close the border, you're actually gonna get most of the American people on your side. If you say
deport the
convicted
criminals, everyone's on your side, yes.
Yeah, so deported criminals, most of the country's on your side. So we could have a good debate about how many immigrants should we accept, right? Legally. And so that's a good, fair debate. There's nothing wrong with the debate about immigration at all, right? But if you say to us, we should be okay with this kind of thuggery in our streets, and we should be okay with masked men being above the law and being able to assault American citizens, kill American citizens, and have total immunity? No, the American people totally disagree. Every poll shows it. So if you're on the right and you think you're in the majority, you're not even close to the majority. You're a tiny, honestly radical minority who says, yes, mass thugs should be able to murder Americans and be above the law. That is not anywhere near normal, and the overwhelming majority of Americans say we hate it and we don't want it. So how did you take a popular immigration policy that you got elected on and turn it into something deeply unpopular? That is so, on top of being immoral, it is politically stupid, so congratulations. And finally, look, my daughter came home the other day and said that somebody in her middle school was deported by ICE. Now, all the kids in that school are devastated. They're trying to figure out what to do. Should we raise money? What can we do? They were friends with her. They didn't ask her what her status was. They were just kids in a junior high. So now all the kids are traumatized, wondering, are we ever gonna get our friend back? So wait. That isn't about immigrants. That's about all Americans.
Yep.
And so do you think that traumatizing kids like that is somehow good for the country? No, you've lost the country on that issue. And so I hope that, for all the Republicans and that 7 loathsome Democrats that voted with them, I hope to God they're all wiped out in the next election. And maybe you could begin to learn the lesson. Stop doing things that the country hates.
And let's name names, okay? These are the 7 Democrats. Some of them are unsurprising. Henry Cuellar,
of course,
who Nancy Pelosi worked real hard to reelect. Good job, bitch.
By the way, you want to talk about uniparty? Yeah. Nancy Pelosi's like, oh, he's getting bribes from Azerbaijan. We love it. Way to go. I love how corrupt you are. She protected him with everything. And we could have had a progressive in that race, and she lost by a little bit because Pelosi was, I prefer the corrupt. That's what Pelosi said. Hold on, total uniparty. Then Donald Trump pardon Cuellar from the bribery charges. So Trump and Pelosi totally agree they both love corruption. And that son of a bitch voted with the Republicans.
Marie Perez voted in favor of it. Lori Gillen, Thomas Suozzi, Jared Golden, Don Davis, Vicente Gonzalez. Those are the 7 Democrats who voted in favor of providing ICE with an additional $10 billion as they terrorize Americans and immigrants in blue cities across this country. So those are the Democrats. Anyway, we gotta take a break. We'll be right back.
So the news is so packed with disaster, we're not even gonna get to a story today about how we're planning on invading Cuba. So I guess we'll save that to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Lunacy, absolute lunacy. Can I just, quick aside here. The people on Wall Street are amazing. They're like, nope, I don't see any problems. They think like this is like, they think it's record after record after record. Every day they set a new record. They think that the country is in fantastic shape. They like, America's never been better off.
I've never seen anything more disconnected from reality than the stock market, honestly.
Yeah, they're on a different planet. But unfortunately, all the elites, all they care about is the stock market. And as long as the market keeps going up, they're like, everything is great. I don't get it. What are people complaining about? Okay, I found Michael Cotavelli's comment on, it was on Super Chat. He said, Hasbara posted, they plan on throwing a block party at Columbia U to celebrate the order to deport Mahmoud Khalil. As a Jew, I am ashamed by these disgusting people. These influencers just drive up hate and then they play the victim.
I did not know that Cotavelli was Jewish, and I just think about all the incredibly good people and the people that I look up to. Like Jeffrey Sachs is Jewish. In fact, he lived in Israel for a while, and he is an amazing person, amazing humanitarian. And like the idea that Israel is carrying out what it's carrying out, supposedly in the name of the Jews, is so disgusting to me. It's so defamatory. Anyway, but you're a wonderful person. Thank you for writing in.
Yeah, and Michael, you're awesome. We appreciate you, and that's why. Now, let me say to the rest of you, like, look, if anyone was thinking of going in the wrong direction of blaming Jewish people overall, remember all the Michaels, remember all the, and we could list a million
Dave
people.
Kohler, Dave Kohler's like my favorite person, almost period, outside of my husband.
That's not bad to be number 2 to your husband. Anyways, but no, like Robert Greenwald from Brave New Films, Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's, constantly fighting for peace, fighting for with all of his might for the Palestinians, and we can go on a million years. So don't ever go in that hatred direction. It's a terrible thing. And to your point, Michael, if the Turkish government was right now going back to committing a genocide against Armenians or Kurds or whoever it might be, and they're like, we are doing this on behalf of all Turks, I'd be like, no, right? So that's the normal reaction. What we're seeing here in America with some of the Israel First guys is not normal. Where they're like, oh, a genocide, and you're blaming the Jews for it. Yes, we love it. It's definitely the Jews. What are you doing? What are you doing?
We're not gonna have time to cover it today, and maybe we will next week. But you know what the Israelis are eyeing after Iran?
Oh God, I don't know.
Yes.
Turkey.
Yes.
Of course they are. Yeah.
No, they're already plotting for freaking Turkey after the regime change war in Iran that we're gonna fight on their behalf.
Well, one. F around and find out. So anyways, Turkey's NATO, but they don't care. They don't care about anything. That's partly why they want to destroy NATO, by the way. That's them. That's where it's coming from. We'll be back.
Turkey. Turkey.
All right, guys, Cenk and Anna with you guys. So we're gonna do something a little different in the RevolYOUtion show. It's the RevolYOUtion is about crowdsourcing a revolution, and part of that is being a community, a team that works together. Unfortunately, one of our moderators, a young guy, passed away recently, and so in the RevolYOUtion episode that's coming up in 2 minutes, we're going to talk about him a little bit and his legacy, and also the community and what we're trying to do together. So stick around for that. Now, in the small time that we have left, I just want to read a couple of comments from you guys, the YouTube members. Christina Alicia Brown said, "Yo, I'm reading a lot of these blind. Cenk looks fresh to death. Go viral, Cenk." I mean. Okay, well, oftentimes a mission accomplished on that, but not for looking good. Original Prop says we need a new party. The key to success is denial of super PAC donors. That is definitely true. I don't know about the new party, but very, very soon, depending on what the Democrats do in 28. But I do know that anyone who takes super PAC donors is corrupt, and you should never trust them. Wamop 3323 says, "Cenk, you're one of my idols. I've been watching you off and on since I was 12 years old. I'm now 27. LOL." LOL indeed, brother. But thank you for watching all that time, and thank you for that beautiful comment. I appreciate all of you guys. ZMK 3592 says, "Thank you for reporting the Israel atrocities while much of the media attention goes to ICE." Kevin Shea asked about New York. If they buy Israeli bonds, how about also buying Palestinian bonds? They would, of course, never consider that. Dana Albrecht says, "I really love Anna's floral embroidered top/dress." So we end on that fun note. All right, guys. Thank you, Anna. We'll be right back. Guys, welcome to the RevolYOUtion. So today we have a unique episode. We do have some sad news to report today, but before we get to that sad news, let's do something that we should have done right in the beginning. Okay, I want to introduce you to our community director because this show is going to be about our community, both the things that we're working on, but also on a personal level. some of the folks in the community. So Cara Eastman is our community director. She's amazing. She was a Just Democrat and ran in Nebraska and would have won for that U.S. congressional seat for a corporate Democrat betraying her and doing ads for the Republicans. Anyways, Cara is wonderful and she joins us now.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing.
Okay, so Cara, you've been here now almost 2 years, which is shocking. This is a funny question to ask, but how do you feel about being the community director here at TYT?
Wow, that is a funny question to ask. I always say this to people that the TYT community is so unique, and that I really can't think of another news network that has a relationship with their community and where the community members have such a tight relationship. And what we're talking about tonight is such a good example of that, but it's just an incredible place. And it's interesting where like politics has brought people to this, but it's deeper than that, where people reach out for so many different things, wanting to help each other and wanting to fix the country. And it's just a really remarkable thing. And I'm like always just very, very grateful that I get to do this.
Yeah, and so look, we're super lucky because we get to build something now where we build it in a way that we think will be helpful, will be something positive in the world, right? Before, you couldn't build a media company and you couldn't, get people together effectively enough in a community like this. But we decided to build a community around people who are open-minded and open-hearted. So we want you to do good in the world, and we're trying to do some good in the world. And everybody's got a different definition of that, and that's where the open-minded comes in. And so, and some, throughout the years, throughout the 23 years we've been around, 20 years online and 23 overall, a lot of folks have opted out and said, no, I don't want an open mind. Or some have thought, what you consider open-hearted, maybe I don't, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's different communities for them. And so God bless, right? But I love the one here. And I'm super proud of you guys. And I love how open-minded you are, and I love how open-hearted you are, and how you try to make a difference every day. And Cara and I started Operation Hope, and that's where the community gets together and tries to make a difference. And this show, the RevolYOUtion, came out of Operation Hope, and Operation Hope is you guys, the community of TYT, getting together and trying, living by that credo that we came up with a while back, get caught trying. Right, and so we live by that, and I live by that, and I love that you guys do too. So now, with that being said, we have some sad news today. So one of our moderators here at TYT is Zane. He was known as the Magic Puffer Dragon, and he's a wonderful guy. We're going to tell you a little bit about him now. And I had just gone to see Brave New Film's movie with him a couple of months ago about Gaza, and he sat right next to me, and we talked about it before, after, and he's been a moderator here for a long time, and hence, as a moderator, you're to some degree a leader in the community. And so a lot of folks love Zane, and he was young, and so this is absolutely tragic, and we wanted to take a moment to honor him. So he's a longtime YouTube moderator. The community absolutely loved him. In fact, they helped him through a tough divorce. And when you guys stick together like that, oh my God, I love that so much. I mean, you want to talk about open-hearted, that's exactly how you do it. And he gave so much of his time, care, and heart to our community. And this is so tragic. He's got 5 children, and his parents, Dorothy and Bob, and everyone who loved him. And look, I just want to say to his kids, if you watch this one day, your dad was a good man. And so you should be really proud of him. And he looked to help others whenever he got an opportunity. So it's heartbreaking when someone is taken too young. So he did have challenges in his life, but he found real connection and support here, which again, I'm so proud of you guys. He spoke often about how much his community helped him, especially through difficult times. And every time you guys showed up with kindness and generosity and care in ways that I think truly made a difference in his life, and he would say so when he was with us. And I read comments of his where he thanked all of you guys, and he was deeply grateful for it. And he was kind, he was funny, he was deeply caring, and I think that it made a difference. It made a difference in our lives, and and I'll say to the kids one more time: look, your father was loved and respected and appreciated, and that's a hell of a thing. Right? And so I hope you guys are all right. We love you. And overall, I would say the same thing to them that I would say for all of us, which is that we're grateful that he was in our lives. So now he used to say every once in a while as a moderator that we should have a moment of silence for a smock break. Okay, a smock break, a lot of you guys know what that is, right? And that was fun. So you know what? Let's just take a moment of silence here for a second. All right, we love you, brother. Be well wherever you are. All right, Cara.
I also wanted to just give a shout out to Allison, who also works at TYT, who works with the moderators, and she was the one who coordinated getting in touch with his mom, Dorothy. I think it's really interesting that Dorothy, like one of the first things she wanted to do was to get into his accounts to let everybody at TYT know, because she knew how much this community meant to him and how much TYT meant to him. That's kind of an amazing thing. So we're really grateful to her. But I also was going through the Discord that we have, our Discord server, and people were leaving these lovely messages, and we have them here. So, Cenk, are you going to read them?
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's alternate. I'll read one, you read one. Okay.
Right.
And yeah. And Allison, thank you for organizing all the moderators and these wonderful folks who've been a great part of our lives. And by the way, guys, we're not sure why he passed away. He passed away in the night. And so if we knew, we'd tell you, but we don't know. All right, let me go to Dana. Dana said, Zayn was a truly amazing person with a huge heart for others. He was not just a fellow moderator, but also a friend whom I loved dearly and always enjoyed hanging out with on game nights or watching Dr. Floyd and other movies/shows. He always made me smile and truly loved everyone in this community. He will be greatly missed. So guys, I mean, when I see that from Dana, I just think like there's so many of you that I've run into and shared a piece of my life with. And Dana worked on my presidential campaign. Cara was the campaign manager of that as well. And so Dana, thank you for writing that in. We appreciate it. And I'm sure your sentiment is shared by so many. In fact, Cara has the next comment.
Sure, this is from Bruce City Mike. After chatting with Zayn for a couple of years in the members chat, I got close with him over the last year or so when we were able to bond over some shared personal situations. I really grew to like him. We just spent New Year's Eve together watching a movie and hanging out in a chat all night, having a great time. You'll be greatly missed by this community, my dude, RIP.
Leftist Red Panda wrote in, I was just informed, this hurts my soul quite a bit. He and I had some lovely and lively conversations. He was so stoked about his new apartment. I feel for his little troop of kiddos so damn much right now, especially with what was going on in his personal life these last months. I need to sit with myself to grieve the loss of a good friend and the all-around chill human that I was lucky to get to know. I will miss your presence immensely, Zayn. May you rest well and your loved ones find peace. It's a good way of putting it. All of our souls hurt a little tonight. Cara.
This is from Naughtiest Maximus, which is my new favorite name. I'm very saddened to hear this news. My heart goes out to his kids and family. I know Zayn mostly from TYT game nights, where he has long had a presence that will be deeply missed. I was just getting to know Zayn more on a personal level in some recent late night conversations with him and Brew after recent games. I learned about his struggles with chronic physical pain after a debilitating work injury years ago, and some of the other struggles he was going through in his personal life. But I was also just getting to know more about what a loving and devoted father he was to his kids, and how he constantly met the struggles and challenges life had given him in a way that reflected his unwavering progressive values of empathy, concern for others, and the importance of community for good causes and caring people. I wish for peace for Zayn and his family. We will miss you, Zayn.
Manuel E2EN4W wrote in, I remember his kindness towards other community members. Some here have written things way better than I even could. His kindness towards everyone in chat who wasn't an a-hole. He was even kind toward trolls. In this regard, he was the best mod I have met. He kindly greeted others while modding.
And this is from Dots Plots. Now I have to be good on my own. Who is going to keep me in line? Keep me happy and positive during hard times. A good friend is a great loss. Such great friends are made here.
I want to make a comment about that in a sec, but last one, Janet. Zayn was a very good friend of mine for years. We talked nearly every day. He was always there with support, comfort, or advice when I needed it, like he did with so many of his friends. He was a beautiful soul with a huge heart, and I'm so heartbroken. Rest in peace, Zany. So guys, the other day we talked about this on Operation Joy. Somebody wrote in, they're a nurse who takes care of folks who are about to pass away. And it's a tough job, and she asked for, advice on how to deal with all that grief, because she gets to know them and then they pass away. She gets to know them and care for them and they pass away. And I'm reminded of that today. And what I thought is, if somebody passes away and it deeply hurts you, what that means is they made a positive contribution to your life. That's why you're hurt, right? And they added to your life. And so I take that as, flip it on its head. And a lot of us do this anyway, right? That means that you should be so appreciative that he was in your life at all, right? So we look at it as a tragedy, which of course it is when he passes away, and we don't have him anymore, right? But what that means is we got so much out of his life, and he added so much to our lives. So this is not just a moment for mourning, but it's a moment for deep appreciation that our paths crossed. So Zayn, if you're out there somewhere, look at all this love you got, brother, and you earned it. Okay. Kara, let's talk just a little bit more about the community before we get back to what we're trying to do together to make a difference, right? So, I sometimes I forget that this is different, because this was my intent all along. I mean, I want to build an enormous community of good-hearted and open-minded people. And it didn't occur to me that, I mean, this is a hilarious thing to say, but I just never thought about it that way. Like, it didn't occur to me that CNN is not building a community, right? And that they view themselves as like a business that does news, etc., and has nothing to do with their viewers. I don't view it that way. I feel like we're all learning together, and we're all working together, and one person or one show or even one network by itself is nothing, right? It will never have enough power and force and enough people to back them up to do something different and amazing and positive in the world. So I kind of always assumed that we should build a community, and I feel like the internet has given us an opportunity to do that. I don't think we could do this on TV. And I'm grateful for it. And I'll tell you this too, Kara, like, so have we had ups and downs? with the community as well, of course. And we've had folks who disagreed with us and left, some left angry, etc. But I look at it as, well, we're trying something, and we're oftentimes trying something different. And so, yeah, it's not gonna be for everyone. But at least we're trying, right? At least we're trying to make a positive difference. So even if people think, oh no, I don't think that's positive, or I don't think that's the right direction, at least we're trying to build a community. And I, I'm telling you this because I'm so in it that it's sometimes hard for me to see it straight, to see it right. But yeah, I don't think we can win without the community, and I think the community is the winning, right? Like just being able to form those bonds with other good people. If we stop the show today, the fact that we created that and all those people shared those wonderful memories and those moments, and let alone the moments where we triumphed, right? The other day we did a show about like some of the best memories because it was our 20th year anniversary on YouTube. And one of them was when Cara won the primary in 2016, and John and I went nuts on air. And you guys out there, you partly made that happen with Justice Democrats and Cara and obviously AOC and so many others. And because you did it because you believed, and you were right to believe. So I want, in my ideal world, we keep believing, we keep working together, we keep building this community. And it's kind of it's a really weird way of putting it, but kind of an FU to the skeptics and the cynics who are always like, no, it can't be done. It can't be done. And you can't be the one to do it. Well, I think you can be the ones to do it. I think it can be done, and I think it's gonna be done by you guys. And I know that none of us here at TYT can do it without you, because then there's nothing to back us up. So for the great privilege of allowing me to be one of the voices of this community, I can't thank you enough. So Cara, you already kind of said that it's different, but yeah, but like I said, I lose track of how different it is.
Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm a social worker by trade. I worked in nonprofit for most of my career, and I've been a community organizer. And so organizing this community, or at least trying to, is an honor, because we get to, there's so many different projects and so many different ideas, but we're all rallied around this idea that we can change the country for the better. And I think one of the things that is missing from maybe some of the other networks is like that idea that like we can change things because we understand our community, right? Like when you actually interact with people who watch TYT on a daily basis, there's so many different opinions and views, and people get pissed, and that's fine. But the policies that we're trying to get passed in this country directly impact the majority of people who watch TYT. That's quite different than other people who are kind of doing things in a vacuum. I remember recently I was watching MSNBC, and Joe and Mika said like, "Oh, I wish we could talk to our community. I wish we understood our audience. I wish we could ask them stuff." Well, we do that here all the time, and so it gives us this really unique insight into people, and therefore allows you to move forward and develop something bigger and bigger, and get people truth and transparency and honesty, which is what we're all craving. But we're just sick of not getting that anywhere else, and so this truly is a remarkable community that you built.
That we've all built. So Cara, now let's talk about what we're trying to do with the community through this show, RevolYOUtion, that started with the genesis of Operation Hope. So can you tell us some of the projects we're working on?
Yeah, also, I mean, even the genesis of this has been really interesting, right? So through Operation Hope, which now we've been doing for a couple of years, a few of the members have said like, "Oh, we should have a show. We should get people on. We should interview candidates. We should have forums. We should have debates." And now we have that, which is a remarkable thing. So right now, through the RevolYOUtion and Operation Hope, we have a lot of amazing projects, and two of them are websites that I think through the community, and Cenk, through your brain, the idea to create something where we would track contributions coming to politicians and then the bills that they pass in relationship to those contributions. So corruptionwatch.us is in the works. Arben and others are working so hard on this thing. I mean, it's actually really hard to do, and they keep making progress and keep providing updates. They're not like the most exciting updates to the layperson, and half the time I don't even know what they're talking about, but I know they're making progress, and that eventually we'll have this incredible website that we could do a lot with. So that's really exciting. The other one is,
hold on, Cara. Let me just say one thing about that, guys. We had this crazy idea. Why don't we take the donor money that politicians get and see if we can connect it to their votes? So that's what those folks are working on in corruptionwatch.us. By the way, we did a poll for you guys to name the site, and you guys picked that name, and I love how participatory that is. In fact, when I ran for president, I did a poll for you guys and saying, should I run or should I not run? So I think it was like 81 or 83%. Not all of you, over 80% said, yeah, go for it. So I did, God help us. But we know we had a tiny bit of an impact. We thought Biden was not the right candidate, and you guys were right about that. You were right when almost all of media wasn't, and a lot of other Democrats weren't. So I love that you pushed me into it. Or asked me to do it in your own way, right? So, anyways, wonderful things that we can create. If that site comes to fruition and you could track, my guess is what you're gonna find is that 98% of the time, the person who takes the donor money votes in the way that the donors want. If we can prove that, oh my God, that would be a huge gift to the whole country as kind of definitive evidence. That's why we were talking about crowdsourcing the revolution. I can't build that site, but you guys combined can. By the way, Cara, before we go on to the next project, if people want to help, how can they help?
Yeah, and we've had a lot of people reach out saying that they do want to help to build that site. Zane was even one of those people, which is amazing. And so you can email hope@tyt.com or go on the tyt.com discussion board on the Operation Hope page. So it's tyt.com/hope, and plug in right there. And there's a lot of people working on this. Some of these people are working like more than you would ever imagine to get this thing off the ground.
All right, and what's the other project that you were gonna mention?
So the other website that we were building is Kids of Palestine. That was a repository of photographs of children who have either been killed or in captivity, and that project is still going. We're finding partners who are working in the communities to be able to populate the site, but that's still a project that's underway. And I've been talking with some of the volunteers working on that who are also excited about that. It was a way to show people what's actually happening around the world, and maybe get some eyes on that so that people understand the impact that our funding of this war is having.
Yeah, two quick things about that. Look, my thought was statistics aren't moving people, but if they see the kids who are actually being killed, that might affect folks, and it has through social media in so many ways. But I would like to build like almost a tribute to those folks and show the kids so that you could see them and you could see a little bio of them and their pictures. And so we started to build that, and there's a bunch of kids on there already. But then we realized, hey, maybe we should put some kids who have not passed away. And one of the first people we added in that category, if not the first, was Mohammed Ibrahim. He was a 16-year-old that was being kept in an Israeli prison. And then you guys joined in on a campaign to get him released. And we did it. In Thanksgiving, the Israelis released Mohammed Ibrahim, and that American kid is now safe, partly because of your great work. That's amazing, and you should feel super proud about that.
Absolutely. The other projects that we've got include, so the populist plank was an idea generated by the community and you and others at TYT to create these set of policies that have universal appeal in the country. And so if you go on populistplank.com, you can see those policies. But I have volunteers every day that are working to get candidates and elected officials to endorse the populist plank, to promote it. We've had candidates reach out saying they want to run on the populist plank, which is unbelievable, to be able to have that kind of an impact, to form policy positions for candidates, which often a lot of candidates don't have any policy positions. So that one's pretty awesome. And the community has really rallied around this. So that's very exciting.
Okay, I want to say one thing to conclude, but we also have the pledge on AIPAC, right?
Yep. So and we're building out a new site to help promote that as well, but basically saying that you will not support candidates who take AIPAC money, and we're asking candidates to refuse it in the future. So that's also a project that's been underway.
Yeah, it's not too much to ask our politicians to represent us. They're supposed to be our representatives. It's, it doesn't matter if it's Israel or any other country. That's not the issue. The issue is our representatives should not take money from foreign governments or corporations. So I'm proud that we were the first to institute the rule at Justice Democrats that no corporate PAC money is allowed, and now that movement is growing and growing and growing. And speaking of pride, so like if you worked on the Mohammed Ibrahim campaign at all, you did anything at all, right? You sent an email, you did a tweet, whatever you did, right? It doesn't matter how small. You should go to sleep at night thinking, I did it. I did something to help, and it was part of what worked and actually got him released and changed his life and his parents' lives, etc. You should feel super proud of that. And I get this from time to time where people will say, I didn't know about AOC, but then I found out through Young Turks, and then I volunteered for her. Or I gave money to Jamal Bowman when he first ran, and I hadn't heard about him before, etc. And when they won, I felt like I did that. And you did do that. They couldn't have won without you. That's another thing you should feel incredibly proud about. And then we have a 17-year-old in Operation Hope who was a Mamdani volunteer from really early on. And then he came on to tell us about it on one of the Operation Hope town halls. And he said, yeah, of course I feel pride, right? Like, I can't believe we did it. So part of the reason I tell you that is the next time you join a campaign, and it might be a campaign that doesn't work, that happens all the time too, right? But you know what? You should still be proud for the fact that at least you're trying, where a lot of people sit at home and they doom scroll, but they don't do anything, or maybe they go to one protest, etc. But you guys are taking concrete steps and actions, right? And so, but especially on something that wins. And imagine that we go through all these different steps and we do it. We get money out of politics. You have any idea how good you're gonna feel? So for your own sake, let alone the country's sake, let alone for all of our sake, take a step. It doesn't have to be a big step at all. It could be the smallest step in the world. But as long as you take a step in the right direction and you get involved and you try to make a difference and you try to make this world a little bit better, then I think you're gonna feel great when we finally get there. And whether it's a small thing or the biggest thing in the world. All right, Kara, any parting thoughts for tonight?
We've got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got candidate forums. We have one tomorrow night with 4 candidates running in Illinois. That's going to be moderated conversation with Cenk and Marie Newman, a former member of Congress here. Really excited about that. We have live town halls scheduled for people, debates that we want to host, and other special projects that people are working on. So if you have ideas, you want to join, just go to tyt.com/ideas or email hope@tyt.com and come and join us, because it's a great community.
Yep. All right, Zane, we love you, brother. And you see it right here in all the comments and all the love. All right, everybody hang in there and stand up for each other. I love when you do that. It makes all the difference in the world. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.